Every child is afraid of the dark, the unknown, the nightmare. In Gatlin, Nebraska, that nightmare is in the corn. Stephen King's Children of the Corn.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Pop Rant Radio, the podcast where two pop culture junkies discuss popular and sometimes not so popular culture. My name is Moss, I'm one of your hosts, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Eric. How are you today, sir?
I'm feeling pretty corny.
Pretty corny?
Pretty corny.
Well, that's good because this is the first episode of Pop Rant Radio's Spooktober.
Ooh.
Where for the entire month of October we are going to watch
DC films.
They are scary.
They are scary.
We are going to watch horror movies, maybe classic horror movies.
Something you said, horror movies?
Horror movies. We're going to watch scary movies. We're going to watch classic Halloween films that we have never seen before, and we're going to talk about them. And today's movie is Children of the Corn.
Yes.
From 1984.
Stephen King's Children of the Corn.
Stephen King's Children of the Corn, starring Linda Hamilton.
And not Maine.
And nobody else. Yeah, not Maine.
It's in Nebraska this time.
Yeah, very untraditional for a Stephen King story. It doesn't take place in Maine.
I think it's almost all of them.
Yeah, pretty much all of them, yeah.
It's not The Shining and it's not this. But I'm pretty sure, The Langoliers takes place in Maine.
Yeah, it's like a mainstay of his stories.
Yeah, those are all terrible too, by the way.
So, Children of the Corn, classic, scary movie.
But when I was a kid, maybe 10, I used to get Children of the Corn confused with Field of Dreams. I have no idea why, but every time someone would say, if you build it, they will come, I thought it meant, if you build, a baseball field, the Children of the Corn will come out of the cornfields.
Will come and get you.
And, I don't know, maybe they'll play baseball really well or something. I don't know.
I wish we would have watched that movie.
Field of Corn.
So this
Children of the Corn.
This movie, I guess, is a classic. People talk about it. It's got a million sequels.
Yeah, there's 8.
The premise is kind of interesting, I guess, because it's kind of the first movie that I know of where it was okay, the children are evil.
Right.
And they kill all the parents, and it's this town of, evil kids.
Yeah, it was kind of the start of that, because, of course, that's what we get all the time now.
Yeah, and it's been parodied a million times. There's a Simpsons episode that's a takeoff of that. There's a lot of...
Yeah. And I remember hearing about this being, a genuinely scary film.
Right.
Even when it came out, and, in the 90s, I remember people talking about it.
Right, and we have to look at this with context. This movie came out in 1984. Movies were just different back then.
Right. However, in the 70s, you had, Alien and Shining, and those still stand out as way better horror films than...
Very true. I mean, it's Ridley Scott and Stanley Kubrick versus whoever the director of this movie was.
It was George Lucas.
Don't look it up. George Lucas.
That's what it felt like.
Well, we should have watched the special edition then, because it would have been a lot better.
There would have been a bunch of CG TIE fighters coming in.
So... 3 years ago.
Right, 2013.
We get a title card that tells us 3 years ago, and then the very first line of dialogue is from this little kid, and he's like, 3 years ago.
It was about 3 years ago.
You don't need that.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's terrible.
I was the only one in church that day. My dad didn't like Isaac.
So we get introduced to Job.
Right.
And Job is...
Eventually Joby.
Eventually Joby, for some reason. So Job is this little kid. He's probably 6, 7.
Yeah.
But 3 years ago, he would have been 4.
Well, no, 3 years ago he was still 6.
I don't know.
He's been 6 for 8 years now.
It doesn't make any sense. So we get introduced to Job, and Job is walking out of church with his dad, and he mentions how his dad doesn't like Isaac.
Right, we don't know yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen Isaac yet. And then flash forward 3 years, all of the parents are dead.
Well, we get this amazing scene in the diner.
In the diner, yeah.
I was joking that it looked like The Godfather, with how it kept on seeing people, looking around.
Yes.
And, there's this really creepy, Ron Weasley in the corner, on the pinball machine.
The kid with red hair, yeah.
He's, nodding at Job, and, these kids are, slowly coming in the door, and they're, nodding at him. And then all of a sudden, this Amish kid walks into frame... and just, smiles, and I was like, what's going on? Are they going to reach behind the toilet and pull out a gun? Is that how this is going to go down? Well, instead, the 30-year-old girl, who's a kid, is poisoning the coffee, and Ron Weasley pulls a machete from underneath the pinball machine. I don't know, but then there's like this giant massacre.
Right.
And Job is completely unfazed by all of it.
Right, all the kids are dead. Yeah, Job's like, oh no, don't hurt my dad.
Oh no, Dad. It reminds me of Gene Wilder from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when he's just like, oh no, please don't.
Stop, don't, come back.
He's just unfazed by it. He's like, oh, Dad. His face, like, I know it's a kid, but his face is just like, oh, shoot.
So
who's going to pay for this strawberry milkshake?
Okay, Joker, you want your usual?
Yeah, strawberry shake.
So all the adults are dead, and then I guess in the next 3 years, like the kids take over the town.
Right.
And
but they don't age.
None of them age. Whatever. And then they form like this crazy religious cult that's based around the perversion of the Bible or whatever. And the leader of the cult, the corn-themed Bible. You might say it's corny, like this joke.
It's weird. Like, I went on a vacation once where there's a place in South Dakota, Iowa. It's in Iowa.
South Dakota, Iowa.
Yep, it's in America. And there's a corn palace. And, like, I was just waiting for this to show up somewhere in this movie, like a corn palace.
Yeah, so the leader of the cult is Isaac, who...
Is the Amish kid.
Is the Amish kid. He has dark hair, and he's very charismatic. Like, he speaks like a preacher.
A time of tribulation has come. A test is at hand. The final test.
And then Job mentions later in the movie that he was a preacher.
Right, which doesn't make sense.
So the actor that plays Isaac, he, in reality, at the time of filming, he was 25 years old. Yeah. But he has, like, a condition, like, in real life where he didn't...
bad actor syndrome.
where he didn't age. So, like, he looks like a kid.
Yeah.
Like
and his voice is super high pitched.
Yeah, and when the camera gets up close, you can tell like he kind of has bags under his eyes, and you're like, oh, it looks
5
weird.
o'clock shadow.
yeah, exactly. But they utilize him like he's my favorite part of this movie because he really works because he's
not mine. I will tell you who mine is.
Well, he's very like you will listen and the Lord will speak. He's very like dramatic.
Yeah.
But we were talking during the movie, and I was like, I think this works because I think the other kids would follow Isaac because they would think like his dramatic talking was very, very compelling to them.
Well, and there's also kind of this interesting theme that I kind of picked up. I might be looking into it too much. That like
probably.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I kept on asking questions that showed that this movie might be a little smarter, but it definitely isn't. Isaac is, I think, the son of the preacher too.
I think so.
Because they don't really explain that at all.
They talk that. That's what I was gonna say. Job says like Isaac was the preacher or like was,
but then he mentions that this is later on in the movie, the man in blue or the blue man talked to the preacher, and then he went out to the field, and then Isaac found out.
It's super vague.
But when he was young, he was a preacher, so everybody believed him. They thought he had great spirit. I thought he was weird.
There's no explanation. Like there's like a whole thing that happens in that 3 years that they talk about once, and they do it through a child's dialogue.
Yeah. So the narrator of our movie is Job, like the 6-7-year-old. That's a really bad choice because he
does not care.
No. And it's really hard to kind of get at what he's trying to convey because there's just no emotion in his voice or anything. It's rough.
Yeah.
So cut forward 3 years, and we're introduced to our two main characters.
Yes.
Bert and Vicky. Vicky is played by Linda Hamilton.
Yep.
And Bert is played by
Tom Petty.
He does look like Tom.
He looks like Tom Petty.
He does look like Tom Petty.
It is Tom Petty. He had to pay off a traffic ticket.
Nice. So we are introduced to our two main characters, and they're in a hotel room, and it's Bert's birthday, apparently, which that doesn't matter at all.
Well, it matters because he gets a lighter, but then they don't even focus on it.
So Linda Hamilton she's just going to be Linda Hamilton.
Yep.
Linda Hamilton gives Bert a lighter for his birthday because I guess they're traveling across country because he's going to be a doctor in another town.
Yeah, he gets an internship.
Yeah, but that doesn't go anywhere.
In Seattle.
Okay, sure. I'll take your word for it.
Seattle. So I think that's where they were going.
Sure. So they're on the road. So they're in the hotel room, and Linda Hamilton's like, hey, you're going to have lots of patients. You could check me out. And he's like, that's funny. Let me take a shower and let's go. And
she dances really embarrassingly.
She does to some song.
Like a School's Out, but like the 1950s version of it.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. No more books and studies. Now I can stay out late with my buddies.
And yeah, there's a lot of filler in this movie.
Oh yeah.
This movie's like an hour and a half long, and it's 70% filler.
Well, and for like 30 minutes, we get them in the car.
Yeah, so they get on the road. It's a lot of them driving.
Right. I made the joke that it reminded me of like, because they keep on seeing signs for Gatlin.
Yes.
And it's like its mileage keeps changing.
Yes.
And I made the joke that it's kind of like Lancelot from Holy Grail.
Right.
When he's just running constantly. And
Yes.
it's from the guard's viewpoint.
Yes, but he never gets any closer.
Right. It just keeps on looping the footage.
Yes. So another subplot.
Yes.
Going on at this time. Little Job and Sarah, Job's sister.
Right.
They're like 6 or 7. And then there's a slightly older kid named Joseph.
Right. And that's who I thought that was Job.
So did I at first.
I was like, oh, cool, they got an older kid. Like, this is actually him.
Who doesn't look anything like the first kid at all.
But then, like, all of a sudden, the kid from earlier just shows up.
And he has longer hair.
And he's the same age.
Exact same age.
And so is his sister.
Yep. So Joseph is trying to run away because he wants to get away from the crazy kid cult.
Yeah.
And
he's done with Isaac's shit.
This was awesome because he's like, he was like, go outside and make sure that nobody's looking so I can get away.
Right.
And then so the 2 littler kids go outside and they're just like,
Okay, go! Nobody's looking!
they're just like yelling it, and then he takes off, and we were just like,
well, he's dead.
Fucking what? Like anybody could have heard that. So he runs through the cornfield.
Right.
And then right before he gets to the road, Malachi catches up to him
somehow.
And then, so Malachi is this, like, redhead kid.
He's the Ron Weasley from the diner.
Yes. He's a just real doofy-looking kid.
He's Steven Tyler and Ron Weasley's, like, kid. But, like, because he's got, like, the long red hair.
Yes.
Freckles. But then you could probably fit, like, a kumquat in his mouth.
He's got some big old chompers.
Yes, he does. His mouth, like, stretches like crazy throughout this whole movie.
So he stabs Joseph off screen,
right.
And we just get, like, the blood splatter on his little suitcase that he took with him. So then cut back to Linda Hamilton and Bert in the car.
Right.
And they're driving, and they're, like, looking at a map. And they're like
60.
Yeah, and they're like, well, we can't find Gatlin anywhere on the map. Ooh, it's not on the map.
Ooh, the kids
and
paid the cartographer.
Like, they look up, and Joseph is standing in the middle of the road, like, clutching his throat, and they just smash into him. Like, they annihilate him. He flies over the car. Bert gets out and goes to check on the kid. Kid's definitely dead.
Right.
But he has, like, blood all over him. So Bert's like, huh, and tells Linda Hamilton, stay in the car.
Lock the doors.
Lock the door, and don't unlock the door until I get back. She's like, where are you going? And he's like, I'll tell you when I get back. Like, it didn't make any sense. The dialogue was super weird.
It's like because then he randomly sees the briefcase.
Yes.
Which shows that, like, Joseph was only, like, a foot from being out of the cornfield.
Right.
Even though he had no idea where he was because it was, like, insinuating that he was in the center.
But
he just, like, walks over, and this is where I had a big problem with this scene.
Yes.
He walks over the briefcase, and as he goes into the cornfield, Malachi comes out of the cornfield further down, and then we see, like, he gets closer to the car, and then Linda Hamilton wakes up and gets out of the car, but he's not there anymore. So she goes over to the body that Bert covers up with a blanket, and when she gets there, like, the kid pops out of the blanket, and he's like, rah!
The body pops up, and it's like, ah!
And he's got, like, a big smile on his face,
yeah.
And, like, it's a dream.
And then she wakes up in the car,
right.
So, like, was Malachi...
What was the dream? But then we
never
find out...
there?
No, that wasn't a dream.
But then
Malachi was there.
It is really rough. So, anyway, they get back in the car, and they drive... They drive on. Cut back to the town. Malachi is just back in the town. He's talking to Isaac, and the 2 little kids, Job and Sarah, they, like, hang out in this house and, like, draw pictures and stuff.
And they're playing, like, Monopoly.
They were like...
old records.
$13,100 or whatever.
How much? $13,100.
This is so dumb.
It's like, jeez, Boardwalk's gone up. Inflation.
And the best part is they're wearing, like, grown-up clothes that are way too big for them.
They're wearing, like theater, like someone went into a Baz Luhrmann closet for a while.
I actually did enjoy that detail quite a bit. So Malachi catches them and brings them to Isaac and is like, they were drawing, they're not supposed to draw. And Isaac says, well, she has the sight. Like, the little girl has the sight. She draws pictures of things that are going to happen, which really doesn't have any relevance in the movie.
And I kind of called that early on because, like, when the diner scene's happening, we're cutting back to the daughter, as she's like drawing. And I was like, is this supposed to be The Shining? Because that's Stephen King's staple, is that for some reason, after the popularity of The Shining, some person in like every one of his stories has The Shining.
Right, can like see the future or
Which is
something.
Stupid. And it's always a little girl now. It was a little boy at first, but now it's always just the little girl.
And in this movie, like it does not serve really any purpose at the end.
The only purpose is that it's the thing that keeps them safe.
Yeah.
Because Isaac won't hurt them.
Yeah, because she has the sight.
Right.
So she warns them about outlanders coming into town.
Right. Malachi travels this whole distance, by the way, in a matter of like 5 seconds.
So Malachi can clearly teleport.
Right.
Because...
And so can Linda Hamilton,
Yeah, because she teleports like right behind Bert when he's
Bert's
looking
like,
at the body.
hold on, stay here, rest your head, because she's got like a headache from the crash. Like, I'm going to go check out this body. He walks like half a mile, and then she's just like, what's going on? And she's like behind him.
I'm surprised they didn't make that a jump scare like they do so many other things in this movie.
They do.
To speed things along, so like Isaac's like, no, we don't hurt those kids because she has the sight, and we don't hurt Job because of reasons, whatever.
Just because it's the brother.
Yeah, our two heroes, Linda Hamilton and Bert, they get to a gas station where there's an old man. So they put the body of Joseph in the trunk.
Right.
But Bert doesn't tell Linda Hamilton he did that, because there's a line later on where they slam on the brakes and there's a noise from the back seat.
Oh yeah, and he's like,
those are my golf clubs. But then the body never comes back up for any reason.
Right, I was gonna say that body's still in his trunk in the
end of the movie. It just doesn't matter. It makes no difference.
On top of the knocked out girl.
Yeah, so the old man at the gas station tells him, oh, don't go to Gatlin. They're crazy religious. They don't have phones. I don't have phones. I'm real weird. It's a really weird
I don't have
scene.
gas. I don't have a dog.
Hi. We've had ourselves...
I ain't got no gas.
No, I don't need gas.
I ain't got no diesel fuel neither.
No, you don't understand. I need to use
Don't buy no gas. You can't use no restroom.
your telephone. I need to use your phone.
Telephone? I ain't got no telephone.
It's so weird. So he tells him to go to the next town.
Go to the next town, 19 miles away.
19 miles down the road. They follow his advice and they try to follow the signs, but they end up getting turned around several times.
Yeah.
And they end up in Gatlin anyway. Meanwhile, Malachi and his bros go to the gas station and kill the old man.
And his dog.
And his dog for no reason.
Right.
Bert and Linda Hamilton get to the town. They're looking around for somebody, and they're like driving through the town. The town is completely empty, which I like that part because there's shots of like you're in the camera's inside the house, and like someone's like pulling open the curtains and like sees them driving around. It's a completely desolate town.
Right.
Like that was kind of cool. So they eventually get to a house where Bert eagle-eyes this door being closed.
Like, it's open maybe an inch, and it's, like, slightly pulled shut. He's like, oh, door closed, hold on.
Right, he's like, they're, like, 200 feet away, and he's just like, nope, I saw that door, let's park here.
Well, and the weird thing is like, right before this, they went into, like that same diner, and they saw the kids getting in their car, and they, like, chased them down, and they got away somehow.
Yeah.
And then Bert's just like, you know what? We need to get out of here. This is really weird.
Yeah.
And we were both like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I looked at you and I was like, good for this movie. Like, Bert's like, all right, let's get out. So I thought the car was going to, like, break down or something.
Right,
that's what I assumed.
I thought they maybe cut the brakes or something.
Or something like that. Nope. He just stopped. He's like, let's go check out this house. I know I said that we were going to leave 5 seconds ago, but let's check out this house. So they go into the house and they find Sarah, little girl. And she's like, oh, all the adults, they're in the cornfield. And they're like, oh, are they working there?
Is it a meeting?
No, Isaac put them there. And they're like, who's Isaac? And she's like, he's our leader. And they're like, okay, I guess I don't have any more questions.
Yeah.
So
immediately Bert's like, she has no idea what she's talking about. You stay here.
Yes.
I'm going to leave.
The old let's split up gambit. He's like, I'm going to go to town hall. You stay here with her. And then
he's like super rude about it.
So
he's a total asshole the whole movie.
So he leaves. Then Malachi and the other kids show up at the house.
Right, because we were joking because Malachi has the powers of teleportation.
Yes.
And like Sarah says something about Malachi, and Linda Hamilton's like, "Who's Malachi?" And I was just joking that he's under the bed going, "He's a super awesome guy. He's the coolest guy ever. Yes. He rids the world of evil, especially his asshole stepdad."
That made me laugh really hard. Like the idea that Malachi had a stepdad that he really hated.
Like that's the whole reason why they did this.
And yeah, just used all of the events just to kill his stepdad. Like that was, I want to see that movie. Like that movie sounds much more interesting. So they grab Linda Hamilton and they take him to the cornfield and they string her up on like a giant cross.
Yeah.
And then Isaac's talking about how they have to perform the ritual and they need both Linda Hamilton and Bert, but Bert's off doing his thing.
Right.
And they're like, Isaac's like, go find him and bring him here. So Malachi and his cronies, again, go back into town. And then the movie just really meanders for a while.
Yeah, like Bert goes into like a church where they're doing this weird like ritual where they're cutting like a pentagram into a dude's chest.
Yeah, because he turned 19 years old.
Right.
And see, this, I kind of like this because he grabs that little scroll that has all the names, the date of birth, and then another day, presumably the day they die. So like the idea is implied that whenever they turn 19, they're too old and they have to be killed. They have to be sacrificed to the corn walker or whatever.
Who the hell's him?
He who walks behind the rose.
And that I like that part because they didn't explicitly explain that, but the dates like line up with that idea. Like that was kind of a cool detail.
Yeah, and Bert's even like, wow, so many people died so young.
Right.
And it was like that was kind of cool. That kind of laid that creepy.
Yeah. Because it was just implied. They didn't feel the need to, like, spell it out.
But we did get an amazing scene before that where, like, the woman who's doing the ritual is like, stop him! And, like, 4 kids jump him.
Yes.
And something that needed to happen throughout this whole movie that doesn't happen after this point at all. Like, Bert easily gets out of it because, he's a 30-something-year-old man and just shoves, like, this 6-year-old to the ground.
Yes. That was the best. He just like shoves him down, and I looked at you, and I was like, right, because you're 6, and I'm a grown-ass adult. Right. Like, I can beat you.
It never happens again in the movie,
No, it's the only time. So the preacher girl is, like, super crazy.
Listen, silence, interloper. Your presence does profane this holy place.
Right.
And Bert gets away, and all the kids start chasing him.
Yep, and we get that super dedicated performance from that one kid. All the kids like run around the corner, then it cuts to Bert, then it cuts back to show one more kid coming around the corner, except he's like...
That one kid was like super into the filming.
Well, and then he's like one of the leaders. Like, later on it's like, come on guys, let's go down this alleyway.
Right, none of the other kids have any names. So eventually, Job runs out and is like, hey, dude, come with me. I have a secret cellar that no one's ever found before.
Because the communists?
Right, because my dad built it for when the commies attack. It's like a bomb shelter, I guess. Anyway, Job takes Bert underground with Sarah, and they have like...
Sarah's just there again.
Sarah's just there, because she can also teleport.
Right.
And then the kid explains the backstory, kind of.
Yeah, he's like the rushed explanation of
it's like 4 sentences where Job explains 3 years ago, all the adults got killed,
right?
And then Isaac took over and everybody follows him, and the man in blue tried to stop everything, and we figure out the man in blue was a police officer because his skeleton is still strung up on one of the crosses out in the field.
Right. And it's like a decayed skeleton and
yeah,
everything.
but
we see it throughout the movie a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Linda Hamilton still out in the field.
Still just hanging out.
Yeah, still just chilling. Job and brings Bert and Sarah up to this barn, and you made the joke where you're like, yep, she's not in here either.
Right, because Job even specifically states, he's like, I'm going to take you to her.
Yeah.
Not there.
No, so they go up in this barn where they can see out into the field.
Right, and meanwhile, there's this little bit of... I kind of like this. This was the one big thing I liked about this movie. There's a bit of a usurp.
Yes.
Where Malachi's like, hey, wait a second, I'm like 5 foot, and Isaac's clearly like 3'2". This is an easy fight. And like Malachi just overpowers him immediately.
Yeah, he just like pushes him down, puts a knife to his throat, and he's like...
And like all the other kids are like, yep, okay.
Right.
Works with me.
The other kids' allegiance in this movie changes so quickly so many times.
They're so easy to just be like, yeah, all right. Well, and the funny thing is like, there's this weird throughout the whole movie of like, go get Isaac. No, wait.
Hurry, get Isaac. No, wait. Bring Malachi.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I kind of like that they built that up, that like the kids start to trust Malachi more than Isaac.
That part was cool. I wish we would have gotten a little more, because it seemed to me like when the girl was like, no, get Malachi. Like Malachi's like the meaner one.
Right, or he might get things done, whereas Isaac might tiptoe around.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. I wish the movie had a little bit more of that, because that would have been cool. Like the whole, like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, because that's the vibe that you get from it, hardcore.
That would have been cool.
So Isaac turns his voice from like medium pitch to incredibly high pitch. It's like, no! Stop this! He will destroy you! And it's like, it's amazing.
So Bert runs out into the field, rescues Linda Hamilton,
Right.
tells her, like, run away, I'll take care of the kids. And she, like, very nonchalantly, she's like, okay, and she kind of just walks away.
Walks away.
Bert has a pipe, and he's, like, fending off the other kids, and Malachi tries to tackle him, and they fight each other.
Right, over, like, a knife.
Yeah, they're like going back and forth, and you and I both wanted Bert to just murder Malachi. Like, just kill him.
And they even fake you out. Like, he grabs the knife, and he's like, is this what you want? And he, like, throws it at the ground.
Yes.
And we're like, yeah, he stabbed him.
It's very much the, are you not entertained?
Is this what you want? Huh? Is this what he commands? Are you not entertained?
And then it cuts back to Malachi, and the knife's, like, an inch away from his head.
Yeah.
It's like, screw you.
And then Bert tells all the kids, like, any religion that doesn't have love is bullshit or whatever. Like, you don't have to do this. You've been doing this so long. Like, you've all been corrupted. And all the kids are like, oh, he makes a lot of sense.
And now they follow him.
Yeah, and so right before this happens, Isaac is all strung up on the cross, and then some super bad, like, Tron special effects.
Well, we were joking because, like, they bring Amos out so that he can, the kid from the church.
The kid who has the carving, the 19-year-old. They're going to sacrifice him.
And we were joking that, like, it's really quiet, and then out of nowhere, Isaac's just like, no! And it, like, cuts to him, and it's like,
I'm ready to celebrate my birthday.
Malachi, he will not forgive you.
He's really polite just to sit there quietly and wait for them to announce him.
So the Tron special effects presumably,
it's bad.
They, like, eat Isaac. They, like, consume Isaac.
Right. And then they blast him off to the moon.
Yeah, like the cross takes off like a rocket into the air. It's weird.
Even though there's nothing on it.
Nope, nothing.
In the shot.
And so then after Bert fights Malachi, like the zombie Isaac comes back.
Yeah, he comes back with like white hair.
And he has this really deep voice. And he's like,
he wants you too, Malachi.
He like breaks Malachi's neck. All the other kids and Bert, they just run away.
They run. The clouds are coming.
Right, it's like a storm is starting up. So everybody gets to the barn. Linda Hamilton, Job, Bert, everybody's there. And then Job explains very clunkily.
Bert goes, go close the door, Job.
Joby, get some help and get those doors closed, quick!
Go close the giant barn door, you 6-year-old.
Yeah, Bert just keeps having the kids do everything, our hero. And then so Job explains that the blue man he was reading a passage of the Bible to try and stop the evil cornwalker. And then Linda Hamilton figures out, oh, the passage talks about fire. He was going to burn the cornfield.
Right, because Job has the passage in his wallet?
Yeah.
Why was he reading out of the Bible? What was it, do you know? Well, you have it?
He was like, what do you, like, explain to me? And he's like, I got it right here.
He just Deus Ex Machina's the passage.
We were like, oh, that was convenient.
It's like, here it is. It's the same one the cop had.
So Bert gathers up a hose and then like hook it up to like this big tank of gas. And then he drags the hose to the middle of the field and then puts it in like the sprinkler system.
Right.
So it's shooting gas all into the sprinkler system. Meanwhile, like underground, there's like a
Tremors
monster. Yeah, like a graboid monster from Tremors, like underground. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Well, and the corn starts to attack them now, too.
Yeah, very, very, like, Evil Dead. Like, when the tree grabs the girl, like, the corn grabs Bert.
And then he easily just cuts his way out of it.
Yeah, like, there's no drama whatsoever.
And Job shows up and helps him, and he's like, get out of here, kid!
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing here? And Job should have been like, you're welcome, asshole. Like, I saved your life. They shoot the gas all up into the field. Bert throws like a Molotov cocktail to start the fire, but he like throws it the wrong way.
Well, and it doesn't break.
Yeah, and then Job goes to get it, and he brings it back, and he's like, throw it right this time. It was really weird.
Why? Like, why have that?
So they throw the bottle one more time, and like everything explodes and blows up.
Well, but like this whole time, Job is or not Job. Well, yeah, probably Job, but Bert is covered in gas.
Yeah, like the gas is all over him. Like, how they both didn't die doesn't make any sense.
Right.
There's a huge explosion. There's like a special effect like face that shows up in the explosion and like
the
screams.
Mummy or something.
And again, this is 1984. Like, it looks rough. I actually liked it. I thought that part was kind of charming.
I was half expecting to see like the Scorpion King in like the cornfield or something.
It's like that. I've seen that image before, like in online videos. So like that is like the iconic moment, the image from that movie. So, all right, the field's burned up. The evil spirit presumably is dead. Sure.
All the kids that didn't run are dead.
All the other kids just disappear from the movie.
Yep.
So Bert,
all except one.
Right. Bert, Linda Hamilton, Job, and Sally go to their car,
right,
which
and
is covered in corn.
And the little kids laugh as Bert and Linda Hamilton kiss.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, they're kissing.
And then they treat the kids like dogs. They're like, yeah, you guys can come stay with us for like a week, maybe a month. And they're like, yay! It's like, this is terrible.
Right. Bert opens up the car and he gets inside and he's like, all right, I gotta grab the map. And then the preacher girl is like in the back seat.
With like a sickle?
Yeah, and she's like, for Malachi
Honor.
or whatever. Who cares? Honor. She's Optimus Prime.
Yep.
Honor. And so Bert fights her off and like gets out of the car, and as she lunges for him, he shuts the door like in her face.
He just slams it on her.
And it just smacks her in the face. She falls backwards.
And he's like,
oh, she's out cold. What are we gonna do now?
Send her a get well card from Seattle. Let's get the hell out of here.
And then clunkily as shit, the movie just says, the end.
Right. It ends like immediately.
I said this when we were watching it, and I stand by it. It is, in my opinion, the worst ending to a movie, period. It feels like embarrassed. Like it's like, at the end, sorry, please leave. Tell your friends it was kind of scary.
It was just so sudden. It was so weird.
Well, the credits took 2 minutes.
The credits took like 90 seconds. It probably took them like a week to film this movie.
Yeah.
Because not a lot happens in it. Like it's a lot of meandering and it's a lot of filler.
It's a lot of like establishing shots. Like, it's a lot of shots of like the car going down the road.
There's so many shots of the car driving down the road.
And like I made the joke that there's like 30 shots where it's like, I'm going to shoot this behind a corn husk.
Yes.
Because corn! Did you get it yet? This movie's about corn. There's several shots of corn with opera music behind it.
So this movie was pretty dumb.
It is.
Like, again, there were some cool ideas here. Like you said, like the usurping of Isaac by Malachi. That was interesting. I kind of like the idea that, again, when they were talking about the sacrificing the kids when they were 19 years old, like they implied a lot of detail, but they didn't specifically spell things out. Like there were some cool ideas there, but overall, this movie just meanders and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
It's 90 minutes long and it feels like a 25-minute short film.
It feels like Langoliers or something like that, which was meant to be a TV short.
Yeah, I mean, it's based upon a short story by Stephen King, and it really shows.
Well, and the weirdest thing for me is it's got this weird thing about religion. Clearly, our two main characters are very anti because they turn on the radio and they're making fun of like this televangelist on the radio.
There's like a preacher on the radio and they're clearly like mocking him.
He makes fun of Bert makes fun of like cherry picking out of the Bible, and like I feel like it's negative towards people who are incredibly religious and negative maybe towards people who aren't at all.
Yeah.
But more so towards the extremists.
Yeah, it kind of like dabs its foot into the pond of like trying to make a statement, and then it just doesn't go anywhere.
Right. I mean, there's like pictures all throughout the movie of like Jesus with like his face like scratched out.
Yeah. I think what they were banking on is they were using iconic religious Christian imagery.
Yeah.
And it was desecrated to just really be a shorthand for the audience of like, these kids are evil, but it didn't really have a lot to say beyond that.
Right.
But it kind of seemed like it did with the mockery.
Yeah, it was almost trying to be like a cult, like making comments about like religious cults and stuff.
Yeah, but it was just touching on the idea of being commentary. But then that's all just kind of dropped.
Right, it's not smart enough to be considered.
Yeah,
anything.
it's not smart enough. That's a good way to say it. And same idea with like the girl's powers of like seeing the future.
That's not done at all.
Like that doesn't really have, like the only time that really comes into play, like you said, is when Isaac says, that's why we don't kill her. And then when she draws the picture of the kids like taking Linda Hamilton to the field.
Right.
So like five.
And the dragon too, I think, is supposed to be her as
well.
That
was really weird because so Bert goes into the town hall or whatever.
Or I thought it was even like a school maybe.
Yeah, and he finds like a drawing of a dragon burning a woman with fire. Right. And then when he sees that, he's like, I've got to go back to Linda Hamilton.
It's weird because it like plays it like his dialogue like it's it's him thinking it like, my wife, I have to go check on her. And it's really weird. It's the only time it does it.
Yeah.
For the whole movie.
A lot of weird choices. Just the themes and the tone is not very consistent.
Right.
Like, you have the little girl that can see the future, but that doesn't really matter. You have the inner thinking like monologue playing, but then that's the only time that happens.
Right. You have a potential religious commentary, but that's poorly handled.
Yeah.
And dropped really quickly.
A lot of concepts that are introduced and then just immediately go away. Right.
And the one that I think they introduced and they kind of stuck to, but they didn't do it strong enough, was like the way that children understand hierarchy.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that could have worked, and they like kind of did it with like a couple things, like we said, the go get Isaac. No, wait, get Malachi. Like that works. That's how kids would understand hierarchy. They prefer one over the other, but again, it's like 2 scenes of it.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't work. And I mean, I think the biggest reason why it doesn't work is the children actors in this film range from passable, which is Isaac at times, to, oh my god, get them off the set, which is like Malachi and...
Which is basically everybody else.
Yes.
Like,
except that kid that screamed. He did a great job.
Right, he was into it.
Right, he's up there with Isaac. It's the two of them.
There's lots of shots, like especially towards the end, where they're all saying like, you know, for the Lord or whatever.
Right.
There's lots of like there's kids clearly like looking directly at the camera.
Yes.
Or like the shot starts with them like looking at the camera and they like turn and look at what they're supposed to look at. There's a lot of that.
Right, you can tell they're looking off behind the camera where like someone's clearly behind the camera, like, you know,
yeah,
giving air directions, giving air quotes, stuff like that.
It's very obvious.
Well, and then I even joke, there's several shots where it shows like the group and it's like 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 6-year-old, 35-year-old, 6-year-old, right. 12, 40-year-old. Wow, good for you.
There's definitely some of the kids that are like, no, you're in your mid-30s.
Yeah, one of the guys has mutton chops. And that was the guy I was joking about who's like, I'm still in 5th grade. It's a good thing we brought Miss Peterson out here. Who's failing now, bitch? Like, it's just, there's no way. There's no way. Like, Isaac's 25, sure, but he passes as a kid.
Yeah.
There's like 5, and they're in shots frequently where there is no way they're below 28. One of them looks pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. It's rough, but... Child actors, I guess. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, this movie was fun. So yeah, so what do you think happened in the 3 years? Like, how did things get so bad? Did they just poison everybody? They just keep inviting everybody back to the coffee shop.
Like we promised, it was just that once.
They keep like sweeping the bodies behind the counter.
I don't know. Like, was it like a whole thing? Like, did they lock everyone's doors?
Yeah, it's weird because they show a lot of people like walking out of the church at the beginning.
Right.
So presumably it was a town full of people.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like how all the kids got all of them.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's New York City, but it's also not like population 20.
Well, so did all the kids like wait until all their parents went to sleep and like just stabbed them or like sickled them? They harvested them.
Well, and there's clearly cops. Because the blue man's a cop.
There was at least one police officer. Now, it's possibility that he was like from out of town or something like that. Because they didn't explain it, but that was the implication that I got was he was an outlander, as they keep saying.
Outlander!
Very Mad Max-esque.
So many times Malachi kept saying like, "Get them!" And he was like not doing anything himself. He just kept yelling at kids.
There's that one time where they have Bert surrounded, and he's like, "Do you want your woman, Bert?" And like the kids all like look at Malachi, and Bert just like pushes one and runs. And it's like, well, great. And then Malachi's just like, "Go get him now."
He just
keeps
getting away.
We had him, Malachi. Thanks. But he's terrible.
Yeah, he's really bad.
Just has like huge eyes, like get the kid, I guess.
There he is! Go get him! You guys go that way!
Well, he goes on to do stuff too. We found out that he's in Back to the Future.
Yeah, he's in Back to the Future. He's the kid at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. So when George McFly and Lorraine are dancing, like after he's already decked Biff, this like one kid runs up and like grabs Lorraine. He's like, "Scram, McFly!" And then George gets back up. He's like, "Excuse me." And he pushes him down. So speaking of awful child actors, what are some good performances by child actors in other movies?
I mean, like there was like a time and place where, you know, if a child actor was like okay or passable, it was seen as like quaint.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think of stuff like E.T.
Yeah.
You know, or like Free Willy. Like the kids in those movies are not good, but they're kids.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I like the kids in E.T. because I feel like, you know, obviously you have Spielberg directing, so that goes a long way. But I feel like they're acting kind of like genuine kids.
Yeah. And that's like the biggest thing that I think a lot of films struggle with.
Yeah. Is
they make their kids either too smart or they make them too stupid, where they don't feel real. Like I always think about like Signs. Like the children in Signs are terrible.
Yeah, because the little boys, he's supposed to be like a weird kid, but he's just very like...
Isn't he a Culkin?
Yeah, he's one of the Culkins. I think he's Rory, but I might be wrong.
It's not Macaulay.
And it's not Macaulay Culkin. So because he's just very like, I have the perfect commentary for everything that happens at all points in time.
I just remember that. I always remember that scene where like they're watching the news on TV and it's them talking about like the aliens are coming and like here's the alien invasion. McCulkin's like, we have to record this, and like the girl's like, no, that's my ballerina tape, and he's like, Jill, we have to show our children this tape. And when we show it to them, they're going to ask how the aliens came. And it's like, what kid is talking like this? He's like 6.
Yeah.
And he's talking like he's a 30-year-old scholar. Like, what is wrong with that? But, like, I feel like kids have gotten better in movies.
Yeah, in general. Well, you know, just I think the casting has gotten a lot better. Yeah. Like, you know, in this
no
day...
more Jake Lloyds.
Right. In this day and age, post, like, Phantom Menace, casting directors are very... very particular about, you know, because especially if one of your main characters has to be portrayed by a child actor, like you have to be very careful because that's a death trap that you can fall into.
Oh yeah.
Because you have projects like Stranger Things that we just had, and like all of those kids are fantastic.
Right.
And they all work within the universe. Like again, they're kind of building like a Spielberg-esque tone, but all of those kids are really great. They all have like unique personalities, and you can tell them apart just by their voice, not like their audible voice, but like the voice, how they speak as a character.
You know who they are. They're not just child one, like, you know, that's Mike, that's, I don't know, Lucas, I don't remember their names very well.
Dustin,
but like 11, the girl who plays 11 is just so amazing with what she can do without even speaking.
Yes.
That it's amazing for a child actor.
Yeah, so that they're all fantastic. Did you ever see the movie Orphan?
I haven't. That's the horror movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a horror movie. It's with Vera Farmiga. She was in The Departed, and she's in Bates Motel. And then one of the Skarsgård brothers, maybe?
Alex Skarsgård?
Sure, Alec Baldwin Skarsgård. He's in it too. There's 3 child actors in that movie. There's like a little young girl who's like 4 or 5 years old, and she's deaf, like in the story. Mm-hmm. There's her older brother, and then there's like the orphan. And I don't know if I think it's a child actress. It might be an older actress portraying a child. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But it specifically her and then the little girl, the deaf girl, like they are fantastic in that movie. Like that movie's okay. Like it's not great, but it's on you know, neither one of us are really a huge fan of horror movies.
Right.
On like the horror movie spectrum, like it's pretty decent. It's worth watching though. Just all the performances are really great, and I think that's what makes the movie good. Is that Skarsgård, Vera Farmiga, and then all of the kids, they're all doing such a good job acting that even though the story's like kind of silly, it still works because their performances are so good.
Yeah, and they're still characters. Like that's the biggest thing we have to get across, is they're not just children, they're characters. Mm-hmm. Which means we have to treat them the same as, you know, the adults in the film.
Yeah.
And I always think back to like Moonrise Kingdom, which is one of Wes Anderson's film, and that film is almost 100% focused on the children.
Yeah.
Like we get a couple scenes with Bill Murray and Bruce Willis and even Tilda Swinton, but like it's all about the Boy Scouts and this young girl, but they're fantastic. Like even to almost like contradict myself, the Boy Scouts are portrayed to be smarter than a kid that age would be.
Yeah, but I think it really works in that movie for a couple reasons. Number one, like just the tone that Wes Anderson sets up in all of his films, but especially this one, like kind of makes you believe that these kids are smarter than maybe they should be. But the other thing that Wes Anderson does in this movie is he really sets up the idea, and it's kind of like an undercurrent, but that these kids are kind of in over their heads.
Yeah.
And they're acting in like adult ways that they think they should be acting.
Right.
So, and that really, really works.
Yeah, even like the scene on the beach, like after the two main kids run away, mm-hmm. they like pitch a tent on a beach and like they will sleep there, and they're like, so what do we do now? I haven't thought that far. Like that's perfect. Like,
yes.
And that's the thing that I really like is that they're Boy Scouts, so they should be, you know, decently prepared in like the wild and like pitching a tent, making a fire, stuff like that. But he's still like 8. Yeah. And I love the wedding scene where like they get entroped with each other. Spoilers for this movie. And like it's fantastic that the way that they handle everything as children. Like again, they almost have like a hierarchy, but it's like the Scouts hierarchy. It's kind of strange. But it works. And like them being smarter, quote unquote, it works for the benefit of the film as opposed to not believable at all, which is like Signs and so many others. cartoons do the same thing with kids. They don't portray kids very well either. Lilo and Stitch is amazing with children. Like, Lilo feels like a real child. Like, she acts like a child. She says weird shit. Like, my favorite line in that is she has a, like, child protection agency, like, agent keeps on coming to the house to see if the sister is raising her younger sister adequately. And, like, he opens the door, and Lilo's sitting there with, like, spoons in, like, a pickle jar, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, these are my friends, and they need to be punished. It's fucking hilarious. Like, it makes no sense, but it works. And that's, like, again, it's weird and it's strange, but it makes sense to a kid.
Yeah, it's how kids act.
And that's really hard to get when you're a 40-year-old person writing a kid.
Yeah, and there's movies that are exceptions too. Like, I think a big one would be like Home Alone.
Yeah.
Like, Home Alone, obviously, like, Kevin McAllister is, smarter than the criminals, and, like, but that's kind of the whole premise of the movie, is that it's this little boy, like, defending his house. So you can, and obviously that's, like, kind of a kid's movie, but adults can enjoy it too. Like, it's over the top, but that tone has been established. So when things get ridiculous, and when Kevin's outsmarting these adult men,
right,
like, it's kind of set up. Like, you're kind of expecting that, and the movie is built in such a way that it makes those things acceptable.
Yeah, and he's not even necessarily, I would say, outsmarting him. He's just doing unexpected stuff.
Yeah.
And it's catching them off guard. And the classic, like, roller skate at the top of the stairs, or, his Rube Goldberg stuff. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah. All of that is great. And, and I've said this so many times, and I'll say it again, I'm sure, but you can write a movie to get me to believe basically anything, as long as you lay the groundwork, as long as you establish the correct tone. And, like, Home Alone is a movie that really, really does that. Like, at the end of the movie, when he's, going around and setting up all these traps, and these guys are falling into it, and it's over the top and it's cartoony because they're clearly not being murdered with a blowtorch, or, like, they're clearly getting hurt, like they would be dead in real life, but the tone of the movie has been, like, set up
like Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it is perfect. It is very, very Looney Tunes, and, like, because it's already been established throughout the course of the entire movie, at the finale when all these crazy things are happening, like, it's acceptable. We laugh because the movie has been built to get us to laugh at these things.
Right.
Yeah, so all examples of where child actors have really, really excelled, or have really, really done a good job, and brought a lot more to a project.
Yeah, and I mean, we get it. It's difficult to get kids to work.
It's tough.
With the children union, and getting them to say lines, and getting them to understand what you want from them. Mm-hmm. It's rough. And, don't just make them cute. Make them a character. Make us care for what happens to them, not just the fact that they're children.
Right.
Not like a puppy dog,
Yeah. Basically, if you're going to write a story that really relies on the interactions and the emotions and the performance of a child, you have to find a child actor that can pull it off.
Right.
So, Children of the Corn, would you recommend watching it?
I would. It's not good, but I would say it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I would recommend kind of doing what we did, where you watch it with a friend, you don't take it too seriously.
Right.
If you're inclined, maybe have a few drinks, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There are some funny parts. Again, there's a couple of interesting, like, Isaac's performance basically is interesting.
Same thing with, like, Malachi just showing up places.
Yeah. There's definitely some funny things that happen. Like, clearly this movie inspired a lot of tropes. Again, like we were talking about, like, there's the Simpsons episode, which is a takeoff on it. Like, this idea of the crazy children has been utilized many, many times in popular culture. And I think it's worth kind of seeing where those things originated from. Yeah. So from that perspective, like, I think it's worth watching.
And it's not as bad as, say, like, Trolls 2, but I would say it's almost as enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, Trolls 2 is definitely like way over the top and funnier. You can
stupid. It makes no sense.
Right, but you can definitely still glean a little bit of enjoyment out of this. And like I said, it's worth seeing purely on the pop culture reference.
Yeah, and it's not super heavy in gore. It's not jump scare heavy.
It's very, like, PG.
Yeah, it's got, like, a couple cuts and a couple, like, blood splatters, but it's always, like, off scene.
Yep.
And then, like, the jump scares, like, there's one real one, and there's, like, 4 fake ones. Like, there's, like, ones where it's, like, someone, like, touches someone's shoulder, and they're like, ugh! Yeah. And it's always accompanied by someone going, shukaka!
And it's also worth it to see one of the most abrupt, crazy endings of all time.
It is the worst.
It's just
the worst.
It's literally, like, the last line is said, and then, like, the words "the end" appear on screen.
I think he says, like, she's out cold. Well, let's head to Seattle. The end. Like, it's super bad.
It is really, really strange.
I would recommend it.
Check it out. Yeah, right now it's on Netflix.
Yep. Get a group of friends, sit around. It's like an hour and 20, 30 minutes.
It's not too terribly long, so it doesn't have to be your entire night.
It's definitely up there as one of his weirdest, Stephen King's like strangest or almost worst.
There's some pretty bad stuff
ones
out there.
I mean, like, there's It and Langoliers and Tommy Knockers.
This is definitely one of his more well-known, like, film franchises. Because, again, there's 8 of these movies, I think.
There's The Final Sacrifice, which is the second one, and it's very much not the final.
Oh, and it's also not The Final Sacrifice featuring Zap Rosdower.
My favorite movie hero always.
We'll have to get that. Maybe we'll do an episode of, like, our favorite Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes or something.
With Troy McGregor and Zap Rosdower, who was supposed to rival Han Solo, by the way.
Oh, my God.
If you listen to the commentary in the credits.
Awesome.
What's your name, laddie?
Troy McGregor.
I'm Rosdower. Zap Rosdower.
So this has been the first episode of Pop Rant Radio presents Spooktober.
Yes, the Halloween special, which goes until Christmas.
Right, exactly. It's like the reverse Christmas, how Christmas starts after Halloween.
Christmas starts in like September.
So there'll be one of these a week for the remainder of October, and we hope you enjoy it.
Yep, and then we'll do Christmas.
We'll do a Christmas episode. We're not doing an entire month of Christmas. That's not happening.
Christmas movies are so good, though. They're all so great.
So hopefully you enjoyed the first episode of Spooktober.
First of 8. Part 1.
Right, 8 weeks in October this year. It's really, really weird.
There's no more November.
If you did enjoy it, you can find the show at Pop Rant Radio on Twitter and Facebook. If you are listening to us on iTunes, please rate and review. It really helps out the show.
Yep.
All the things. And as always, we'd like to thank Major for the theme songs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And other than that, we'll see you next week.
Death to those who walk behind the second row.
Of corn.
That's what it said, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yep. All praise grow for Jesus.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.